Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guests up are Janice and Alexandra Caillet, founders of Corentus. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan.
It's great to be here.
Good to be
So
here.
tell us a little bit about your organization, what it is that you do.
Shall I jump in?
Go for it.
So Corentus is a professional services firm, and it's dedicated solely to team development, end-to-end set of services, from the designing of teams to the launching of teams to the sustaining and the maintenance of teams, all the way to their end. And we work with teams live while they're doing their real work, and we intervene with them as they do real work, so they can actually, in the midst of their real work, they can make the kinds of modifications they need to improve themselves or strengthen their strengths.
So very practical. Sorry.
Yes, so we're actually sitting there during their meetings.
During COVID, we're another box on the screen, but we're there coaching them live when they're in their meeting.
That's right.
Excellent. So it's an interesting approach, as opposed to observation and providing feedback after the fact. You're really doing it in real time. And how do your clients adapt to that? Because I imagine at first it feels from the outside, it sounds a little bit like you're almost in a rehearsal for a play, or something live television. It's like, cut. Let's talk about what's going on. Tell us how that plays out. And obviously, you don't want to take away from flow within a meeting, and you want to accomplish that. So how have you managed to navigate those pieces for your clients? I would imagine after a while it becomes kind of natural for them. We're going to expect these guys are going to give us feedback, but a really interesting approach that you really jump in as they're meeting.
Yeah. There's a lot of preparation that happens beforehand. Before we're actually sitting in the meeting with them, there's quite a bit of preparation that we do with the leader as well as with the team to get them prepared for that, for us to be able to lean in and provide feedback. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, so what's interesting is that many years ago, and we started this over 25 years ago, this idea of team coaching was nascent, and most organizations weren't ready for it. But today, more and more organizations are ready for it. And the way you prepare the client to do this, it takes time, right? I think you're right. There's a whole upfront piece about interviewing the team and diagnosing and having them really tell you what they want to focus on. There's a piece about maybe early stages facilitating and training until you get to a point where you can actually intervene. What we have found is actually most teams welcome the opportunity to get good neutral feedback on what's happening in the room, from their ways of working, their behaviors, the tools they use, and to be able to talk about it with an eye towards improvement. It's not a derogatory piece of work. It's actually a very productive piece of work. And most teams would say, we're finally talking about these things. And because you intervened and gave us that real feedback on this work, we were able to make a decision, solve a problem, move forward, communicate better. So there's a real return that is aligned with the work they do to produce a result. And that's where clients go, oh, that's very different than team building or team training, metaphorically, or game playing, which doesn't produce the same result.
So what are some of the indicators or markers that you typically see in the teams that you work with? What are they experiencing or having happen that they're saying, we need some guidance or assistance with this? Is there some sort of typical signs or symptoms that teams are going through?
Can I take that?
Sure.
Yeah. So
Range.
Yeah, there's a wide range, but I would say,
imagine.
Yeah, there's a huge range. I would say you find teams that have found themselves stuck in a performance rut. For some reason, they're not able to move forward with more productivity or more innovation or really landing results on time. Something has happened to their performance where they're stuck or they're actually losing it. Another issue is when they notice that the communication and the trust has lessened or has actually become problematic, and they know that there are issues in the team that they can no longer resolve. Another issue is when they start to notice that, topics like decision making and accountability and problem solving are no longer working. They're not making clear decisions. They're not holding each other accountable. and they're no longer able to solve problems, and the team has gone, again, a little stagnant. When those issues show up, one thought is to go do team building, which is analogies and metaphors. The other is just to deal with it live in the room to increase the performance, that productivity, or that sense of cohesion that gets the team operating again to the levels that it should be at.
Do you find a lot of organizations sort of get into a rhythm in their team engagement, team meetings, things of that nature that are comfort zones, and part of what you guys are trying to do is move them beyond their comfort zone and create productivity, innovation? Because I think comfort zone equals, in a lot of respects, stagnation. Same old, same old.
True. I like to think that we're getting them to a new comfort zone, one in which they can work more harmonious together to actually really create and achieve the goals that they're looking for. So sometimes the comfort zone is in a series of norms in which it doesn't help them achieve what they're looking to achieve. So I would call that, and they would call that discomfort.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it seems like comfort in the moment
Yeah.
because they're so used to it, because it's a norm or routine as part of their culture. But there's a big discomfort there because they're not reaching their goals, or they're not working harmoniously with one another.
Yeah, we know as human beings, when we're in a system, a group, or a team, and we know that we're not achieving our potential, or there are issues we're not talking about, or we just know that it could be so different only if. It sounds like a comfort zone, but I think what Janice says, it's a discomfort zone. And most human beings tend to not want to be a part of those systems. They tend to dread those meetings, not want to be a part of the team, start to lose the excitement and the buoyancy about being part of a system. So that just exacerbates the original piece, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that those teams spiral down into lower and lower levels of performance,
So you've done work with companies globally, and how is that evolution? What has that evolution been like? How has that happened? Is it predominantly within Europe, or are there companies throughout the world? And are you seeing in other cultures besides U.S. cultures, because we are so global in a sense, that there's an openness towards team development? Now when you start talking about different countries, you're talking about cultural aspects that are quite different in terms of norms and how people conduct themselves. I would imagine in teams and in meetings. So do you see big differences in various places where you've been working versus what you may see in a sort of typical, whatever that means, US based company?
Yes. I mean, I think, first of all, team development is expanding around the world. I think our recent movement towards the more digital interfaces we're having here has offered organizations an opportunity to expand the number of people they work with and to expand the diversity globally of who they're working with. So we are seeing a need for organizations to actually be able to work more collectively in teams and groups globally. I would say, though, that so team development, we've done team development in over 30 countries, and it's on all 5 continents. Team development has always been there. Some countries are more prone towards the team building than the team coaching. I would say that team coaching, this idea of intervening real time, is not for every culture and is not for every nationality. There are some that might find that a little too confronting and a little too public and might shy away and might ask you more to facilitate versus give that live feedback. Other countries might say, give us the feedback afterwards or give it to the leader. We do find that in the United States, many organizations are ready for this, and many organizations in Europe are as well, but it's not global at the same level today.
It's interesting. So you really need to adapt, and I would imagine that's the way you do your upfront work in terms of laying things out from a process perspective and understanding where their comfort zones are, or what their culture indicates is the approach that they prefer to take. So fascinating to see how those differences play out.
Yeah, and team training on tools and frameworks, team consulting, team facilitation are fully legitimate and valid ways to do team development. And if that's what you need to do or start with before you get to a team coaching intervention, that's fine. As you say, make sure you understand where you are, understand your context, and meet your clients where they're at. That's really important.
Have you been in situations, or have you had success in situations where you're working at multiple levels of an organization with teams throughout an organization? Is that something that is an evolution that a lot of companies do? Because I think people come to the Taper House with the notion that, oh, this is only for executive teams. But do you work with functional teams through organizations and apply it vertically and horizontally?
Yeah, absolutely. We do prefer to start at the executive team because they're the role model. They're the ones that people actually look up to, depending on the team. But that's the best place to start. And then we work with HR and we work with people, across the organization. We also work on the board level. So starting at the executive team and then secondarily working with the organization on the board, where you actually start infecting the culture with, say, accountability or better decision-making or better collaboration.
Yeah. We're in a couple systems now where we're at the executive level, and then the executives on that team have taken this into their functions or business units, and they're working with their leadership teams, and then that's even cascaded down to what you might call management teams. The really great thing about this is when an individual has seen you do this work and understands how to intervene and jump in, they can actually start doing it for their own teams. So when you actually, you really win the game when your clients can do this on their own. And the power of team coaching is you no longer are codependent on an external consultant, facilitator, trainer. You understand this idea of self-observation, creating self-awareness, creating self-regulation, which is transformation. And when clients can self-observe to become self-aware and self-regulate, then they no longer need the external. They can do it themselves. And that happens as the system cascades this work down to itself.
Interesting. It's
cool?
it's I guess the ultimate objective: work your way out of an opportunity to work with the client, right? That means you've been successful. They can do it on their own. Fabulous stuff. In terms of the length of process, is this something that companies engage for typically for a 6-month, 12-month? I know no one size fits all, but it's a ongoing process as you talk about until they can walk on their own, so to speak. Probably run on their own in most cases. But what's the typical engagement time frame look like? Again, probably nothing typical, right?
It isn't, but we can average it out. I mean, they're as short as 3 months. They've been as long as a year and a half. I would say an average is about 6 to 9 months would be right. About 9 months, the clients are really starting to understand what you're doing, and they're able to start moving without you, and they'll gently ask you to,
We got it.
we got it. We can do this.
And is there a scale of team that's necessary? Do they need to have a certain number of members on the team, or does it work with very small, if you have a leadership team that's 3 or 4 people, does it work versus, needing 9 or 10 around a table?
2 to 3 minimum.
2 to 3.
But just not
Great.
one. Because that'd be one of them. It's a team when you have 2.
Tell them to stop talking, would you?
Well, these
It's
are
a real
great,
problem when they're talking to themselves all day long.
Exactly.
these are great questions. Really great questions. We would say that there's a distinction in size when you go from being a team to a group.
Yeah.
When you start getting beyond the 10 or 11, 12 person size, you're probably shifting away from what we would call a team size to working group size and larger group sizes. Team coaching tends to be more challenging at those sizes, not impossible, but when you've got teams that are around the 7 to 10, that's ideal. Really nice size group, because then you can work enough of the challenges within that everybody can participate and engage. And it's much bigger than that. You might have individuals who step out or hide from the process.
Excellent. Makes perfect sense. Our guests have been Alexander and Janice Caillet, founders of Corentus. If people want to get in touch with you, learn more about your services and how to work with you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
We prefer the direct approach, so please feel free to email us at engageus@corentus.com. So ENGAGEUS @CORENTUS.com.
Yes.
Excellent.
And we answer those.
And we answer those.
Nice to hear that. In today's world, you never know, right? Send off an email and why has it been 3 days and I haven't heard back?
Exactly.
And our whole team, by the way, our whole company. So
Yes.
we are more than two.
There are a lot
Excellent.
of us.
Well, it's
They're
been a pleasure having you on, learning about your company. Our guests have been Alexander and Janice Caillet of Corentus. It's been a pleasure having you on Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thank you
Nice
so
talking to you,
much.
Jonathan.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.